Hello and welcome to VOA's Red Carpet. I'm Jackson Vunganyi. On this episode of Red Carpet, we have fashion show celebrating disabled models in the Ivory Coast, a Ghanaian's collection of African photo books, and an Angolan model making history at São Paulo Fashion Week. And we begin with a fashion show in Abidjan that showcased the beauty and strength of people with disabilities during International Day of Persons with Disabilities. AFP has this story. About 20 disabled models stepped onto the runway with the mission of changing society's perception of disability. Titled Fort au Pluriel, Strong in Numbers, the fashion show was put together by the Mognan Foundation, an organization which works to improve the quality of life for disabled women in the Ivory Coast. Grace Beho, a 22-year-old student, is the organizer of the Mognan Foundation. Having had her hand amputated following a road accident, she now campaigns for the empowerment of women with disabilities.
After this show, I think that these women who are going to watch us, who don't have the self-confidence yet, will really have this feeling of, other women have done it, so why not me? They will assert themselves, and I think they will show themselves to the world as they are.
Around 20 women, including some wheelchair users and amputees, walked the runway, dressed in looks by local designers. Letitia Conan, who has been wheelchair-bound since she was a teenager, was excited to participate in the event.
It is a blessing for me to show myself to the world in a wheelchair. Words fail me. I'm happy. I'm very proud of myself, first of all, because I am now able to show myself to the world.
One of the attendees, Dominique Quadio, was impressed by the courage exhibited by the disabled models.
It was a magnificent fashion show. I take this opportunity to congratulate them because it is not easy to live with a disability and then come to walk the runway in front of everyone. They are really brave. They should be encouraged.
According to the United Nations, 80% of the world's 1 billion persons with disabilities live in developing countries. And more on fashion, but from Brazil, where Angolan model Braulio Tipia made history when he walked in the biggest fashion show in South America, São Paulo Fashion Week. VOA's Portuguese Edgar Maciel has more from the largest city in Brazil.
Hi, my name is Braulio Tipia, also known as Mustafa. I'm 21 years old. I'm Angolan from the province of Namibe, and I've lived in the city of São Paulo in Brazil for 2 years.
The 21-year-old made history as the first time an Angolan model walked the São Paulo Fashion Week runway for 5 different designers and the only Angolan at this year's show.
A photographer saw my photos on social media. He contacted me and we took some pictures. Everything went well, and he said he saw my potential to work as a model.
Braulio has posed for Brazilian magazines, catalogs, and brands, but shared how walking this runway was an exciting experience.
It was a very good experience. I was able to walk the runway for different brands with different concepts. I was able to understand the behind-the-scenes workflow because sometimes we only see what's happening on the runway and we don't know how it all works on the backstage. I had the chance to see it, feel the rush. It was really good. I was a bit nervous in the beginning, but once I started walking, it seemed like everything went away.
The Angolan caught the attention of the Brazilian press and is being considered one of the most promising faces in fashion, an immigrant who knows how important representation is.
In the past, certain people were unable to do certain things, certain jobs, such as modeling. But currently, there's a different demand, and I am one of them. And it's really good because it motivates people like me chase my dreams and be able to work in this business, catwalking, and work in events like this.
Braulio hopes his future will include walking runways worldwide.
And now to Nigeria, where a group of 10 young artists known as the Slum Party aim to improve lives of residents in one of the poorer districts of Lagos through dance, changing the reputation of an area once blighted by gang violence. In an alleyway in Oworonshoki, the Slum Party kicks off with a burst of music, dance, and the flames of a fire-breathing act. Soon after, the whole street joins the dancers whose costumes are crafted entirely from plastic bottles collected from the neighborhood streets. Sunday Ozegbe Obiajulu, also known as Valu, told AFP that he started Slum Party to help change perceptions about the neighborhood.
Like in terms of insecurity, all this area was like a black spot. So we started Slum Party here to sort of bring the people outside, make them happy, see performances from all over Lagos, have conversations. We needed the people to start talking about these things. And from there, the situation just started to improve.
Oworonshoki is located at the foot of the Third Mainland Bridge, Africa's second largest, that stretches 12 kilometers above the Lagos Lagoon. Nigerian dancer Henry Betho Wisdom shares how he believes the Slum Party is making a difference.
We try to use our art to speak, to just like for protest, not just cardboard, like we use our body, our dance to do protests, like just improvisation, and we could see that a lot has really changed. So now if you go to the Google and try Oworonshoki, so now you see the good, not the bad again. So because we've changed the narrative of the community.
As the Slum Party procession bounces along Oworonshoki's shanty homes made from wood and tin, residents stare with wide eyes and excitement. And let's go to East Africa in Kenya, where a Kenyan video game company has launched a football game that encourages young men to be active during the pandemic and help stop gender-based violence. Surveys show that about 40% of Kenyan women will face gender-based violence in their lifetimes. Lenny Ruvaga reports from Nairobi.
Gamer Jamila Odhiambo introduces the junior football team at Mathare Youth Sports Association to a new kind of football game with a special purpose. Futa, Swahili slang for football, takes gamers from the metaverse into the real world, where they earn points by exercising and learning about gender-based violence.
It's really interesting because when you're playing the game, even the men can learn how to handle the women. They can learn how to go through challenges that affect us as girls and as women. And yeah, we're good to go. Everybody's okay.
Usiku Games CEO Jay Shapiro says Kenyan coders partnered with GIZ Regional Project Sport to develop Futa exclusively for Africa and for free. Players score points by wearing Google Feet to monitor their exercise and answering questions on issues related to gender-based violence.
So we're trying to combine the fact that the youth love football and love games, and taking those two and putting them together to try and teach some social values around good sportsmanship, fairness, and trying to reduce gender-based violence.
Rights group Equality Now says about 40% of women in Kenya in their lifetimes will face sexual and gender-based violence. The Kenyan Human Rights Commission's Irene Soila says it's a problem that everyone needs to address.
We need to create champions of SGBV, and that is from both genders, both men and women. We also need to create opportunities for people, because poverty is really one of the escalators of SGBV. So let's create opportunities. The other thing is also creating awareness around SGBV. People do not know that it is a major problem.
Gamer Odhiambo hopes Futa will educate Kenyan youth on gender-based violence and keep both their minds and bodies healthy. Lenny Ruvaga for VOA News, Nairobi.
Now, while most people stayed at home as the COVID-19 pandemic ravaged New York City, Ghanaian national Paul Ninson went through storage containers and struggling bookshops in order to build what he says has become the world's largest collection of African photography books. Here is more from Reuters. Ghanaian New Yorker Paul Ninson's Queen storage unit is already crammed with photo books, but he still manages to find space for a stack of vintage National Geographic magazines. Ninson has collected every issue of the magazine going back 40 years, numbering 30,000 since the COVID-19 pandemic began, all of them containing images from Africa or taken by African-American photographers.
My way through photography was just looking at magazines and photography books. Some of these pictures are incredible. Some of these pictures tell stories of places, but mostly sometimes what I wonder is, what if those people in those communities contribute to these stories in a way of self-expression of who they are? Do people in these communities accept how they are being depicted, especially Africans?
Ninson began his collection shortly after arriving in New York on a photography scholarship in 2019. The COVID-19 pandemic fueled his obsession with struggling bookshops offloading their inventories at reduced prices.
Pandemic changed us a lot. But for me, what happened was that I was constantly emailing people, constantly emailing galleries, collections, private collectors, and telling them my vision and what I want to do. And that is where it led me to massive amount of books. So during pandemic, I was in warehouses packing books. I was in people's basement packing books by myself. And that's how I was able to amass a lot of books.
Thanks to a successful crowdfunding campaign popularized by the photo blog Humans of New York, Ninson is sending his collection to Ghana's capital Accra, where he plans to open Africa's largest photography library. In his first major show in Europe in nearly 5 years, painter Mark Bradford says that he turned to the medieval period to explore contemporary conflicts and social tensions, particularly racial unrest and the current global health crisis. AFP has more.
The exhibition, entitled Agora at the Serralves Museum of Contemporary Art in Porto, in the north of Portugal, entails a series of new paintings, tapestries, and works on paper inspired by the Dutch medieval tapestry, The Hunt of the Unicorn, dating from around 1500s. His philanthropic efforts, particularly to help youths in the southern neighborhoods of Los Angeles, where he grew up, have earned him considerable recognition. However, Bradford rejects being categorized by stereotypes.
I'm Mark Bradford, and I work in Los Angeles. I'm known for using paper and materials that come from the streets. People also mention that it's something like social abstraction, taking social and political material and kind of pushing it through a lens and coming out with these kind of paintings that aren't paintings, but they exist on the wall. I don't really identify myself with anything that the stereotype is, really. I negotiate with stereotypes every day of my life, but I don't identify with them.
On some of the canvases, Bradford's thick paint covers maps representing the hot spots of the race riots that rocked Los Angeles in the 1960s. For Philippe Verne, the show's curator, it was a testament to an artist who spent a lot of time in the studio processing the crisis.
This exhibition, Agora, and the tension between these two words, now and the birthplace of democracy, is really a meditation on how an artist engaged in the world, not isolated in the studio, react, process, and make a testimony about the time we're living in.
Named by Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential people of 2021, Bradford draws parallels to the riots he himself experienced in 1992 and other social crises, such as the emergency of AIDS and the current coronavirus pandemic. The exhibition in Porto runs until June 2022.
And with that, we come to the end of our show today. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. For more entertainment news, remember to check us out at voanews.com. We are also on all social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube, where you can watch our videos. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, goodbye, everyone.